This meeting is now called to order. The Township Council meeting Monday, February 28th, 2022. Welcome, everyone. Councilman Vanchery, lead us in the flag salute, please.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So all may be seated. Ms. DiPiero, please lead the statement of public notice.
Take notice that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in accordance with NJSA 10:4-8 and NJSA 10:4-10 as follows. A notice of the meeting was promptly posted on the bulletin board at the municipal building located at 225 Main Street, Little Falls, New Jersey on January 14th, 2022. A copy of the notice is mailed to the North Jersey Herald News and the record on the same date. Additionally, a copy of the notice was filed in the office of Township Clerk on said date. This meeting is being conducted under the circumstances surrounding the COVID-19 health situation. Only 25 members of the public will be allowed to attend the meeting in person. A link and a telephone number to join the meeting virtually can be accessed on the Township website at www.lfnj.com. Electronic provisions have been established for the public to participate during public comment portion of the meeting.
Thank you. At this time, please call the roll.
Councilmember Hablitz. Present. Councilmember Kwati.
Present.
Councilmember Seaver.
Present.
Councilmember Vanchery.
Present.
Council President Scoba.
Present. I see no reason why we can't vote on the minutes of January 24th and February 14th together. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of January 24th and February 14th?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Vanchery, second by Councilmember Hablitz. Please call the roll on the minutes.
Councilmember Hablitz.
Yes.
Councilmember Kwati.
Yes.
Councilmember Seaver.
Yes.
Councilmember Vanchery.
Yes.
Council President Scoba.
Yes. At this time, the floor is Mayor Damianos.
Thank you, Council President. Before I begin the budget presentation this evening, I'd like to make an announcement regarding masks in all municipal buildings effective tomorrow, March 1st, 2022. Masks will be optional for those that are either working in or attending or visiting any of the municipal buildings in town. So that will begin effective tomorrow, March 1st. Masks are optional. Next, and just to provide some background on that, this week, the total number of confirmed positive COVID cases in the Township of Little Falls is at the lowest it's been in many, many, many months. There were only 2 positive cases of COVID last week in Little Falls. There seems to be plenty of options for those to get vaccinated who wish to be at this point for almost all age groups above 5. And at this point, those that want to continue wearing masks may, but it will no longer be required within the municipal buildings in Little Falls. Now for the budget presentation this year. And bear with me as we get it shared on the screen for just 1 second. And as it comes up on the screen, I would just like to point out that I believe that the 2022 budget that is being presented for the Township Council for review and approval is one that is extremely fiscally responsible. The tax increases in the Township of Little Falls over the past number of years have been nominal, at least on the Little Falls portion of the tax increases. And to provide just a brief background on the increases that have been that have occurred here in Little Falls over the past 5 or 6 years since I've become mayor, I just want to provide a very brief breakdown of that. And that is the average annual increase on a home value of $300,000 over the past 7 years has been well under $60 to the point where it's only been $4.64 per month on the average home. The current inflation rate in the United States, as many know right now, is about 7.5%. And the actual percent average increase that we have realized here in Little Falls has been at 2.38% per year, much lower than the annual average of inflation, especially in light of increased costs over these past number of years, which continue to impact our budget
Mary Ann?
Right there.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
All right, now we're good.
Wait, but why does that say 5? It's okay. We're good.
I think it actually happened in the middle, but I don't know where.
Hi. Did you lose video, sound, audio? You lost audio, but then now did it just come back? I
All right, I
hope-
think audio should be back up and running.
Okay, there he is. All right. Okay, bye.
All right, I'm going to begin the 2022 budget presentation. All right, and this year, just to provide a very brief summary of the 2022 current fund budget. This year, the current municipal appropriations are $10,531,183. The reserve for uncollected taxes is $500,000. Debt service is at $2,442,950. Total salaries are at $8,072,293. Budget revenues are estimated at $7,508,079, which results in an amount to be raised by taxes of $14,038,347. As far as the local municipal tax rate right here in Little Falls, in 2022 budget is $789,637 under the tax levy cap and under the appropriations cap by $147,158. The 2021 assessed value of the municipality was $1,535,481,900. The 2022 assessed value is $1,542,914,400. This is actually an extremely small increase in assessed values for the municipality. And I bring that to everyone's attention because it is this particular item here, the assessed value of the municipality, that as assessments continue to grow, it assists in offsetting increased tax expenses to the municipality. And with a nominal increase in assessed value, it results in there being a greater tax burden to those in town as a result of there not being many new assessments coming online in Little Falls. And in this past year of 2021, while there's been a number of buildings being constructed, very few of them have actually come online at this point. So we hope to see a greater increase in assessed value in the upcoming years. The municipal taxes are projected for 2022 at 0.91 cents. And in 2021, the municipal actual taxes were at 0.894. So everyone will notice that that is an increase in 1.6 tax points per $100 of assessed valuation over the 2021 tax rate. What does that mean for you? That means the 2022 average home in the township is valued at $310,000. The municipal portion of the taxes on an average home in 2022 will be $2,821 compared to 2021, where it was $2,798, a $23 increase in municipal taxes over the course of the entire year, resulting in what is less than a $2 per month increase in your municipal taxes. In 2021, the fund balance, as far as highlights go, was $3,518,515.62. In 2022, the fund balance is anticipated to be $1,970,000. In 2022, there's remaining $1,548,515.62, with a 2021 fund balance of $2,829,782. The 2021 fund balance anticipated was $1,405,400,000. And in 2021, it was $1,424,382. Now, if we could just go back one slide for one quick second before we get to the highlights, I would just like to point out that there is a municipal tax increase that is estimated at $23 on the average home here in Little Falls. What Little Falls residents need to understand and take into consideration is that this year, we were dealt several difficult hands in the sense of things that could not necessarily be anticipated and projected in advance and years ahead when calculating and preparing budgets. Because I believe that preparing a budget is not something that can be done 1 year at a time. There needs to be projections. We need to look into the future as we do that. And unfortunately, as everybody knows, as a result of Hurricane Ida, we had some substantial damage to a number of homes here in Little Falls. And as a result of that, the municipality took immediate action and incurred about $150,000 in expenses, which was an emergency appropriation that we were required to spend, which is required to be funded in the following budget's year. It was about that $150,000 that could not have been anticipated and calculated, was required to be included in the 2022 budget. And on rough numbers, one tax point in Little Falls is about $150,000. So of the emergency appropriation that's required to be funded in the 22 budget, about one of those tax points is a result of that $150,000 emergency appropriation that was required. And again, this is something that cannot be anticipated, but it's something that when it happens, the township needs to be ready to react. They need to, that the township, no matter where you live, God forbid there's an emergency in your neighborhood, the township will take action to make sure that garbage is removed, that action is taken to keep you safe during that period of time when homes are vacant. And that was part of the not anticipated increase in the taxes this year. In addition to that, as many people know, and as many people have heard me talk about in the past, there was a substantial shortfall in revenue in the 2020 annual budget as a result of COVID initially taking off, of the whole world essentially shutting down for a period of time, and a substantial shortfall in the anticipated revenues that the township has historically received. That totaled about $600,000 in total shortfalls that we had in 2020. And the government made, or the state made, one exception as to how we can fund this type of an emergency of the shortfall of $600,000, and actually allowed municipalities to fund this shortfall over a 5-year period. In 2022 is the very first year in which this $600,000 shortfall needs to be funded to the tune of about $120,000 in that arena. And again, it is something that, while we knew it was coming this year, it was not something that could have been projected years and years in advance. And really, I say that only to say that this year's increase in municipal taxes is really the result of what was otherwise an extremely, extremely tight municipal budget here locally. Had it not been for this unfortunate emergency appropriation, as well as the shortfall in COVID revenues, there would have essentially been no tax increase here in Little Falls in 2022. But of course, these are things that couldn't have necessarily been anticipated, and things that the township needed to react to for the benefit of all of its residents. So with that said, again, there is less than a $2 increase in light of all of that on the average household here in Little Falls coming up in 2022. Now, as far as some of the budget highlights, the assessed values increased in town, as you heard me say earlier, by only $7,432,500, a very nominal increase in assessments here in Little Falls. Library taxes are set at $594,272 for 2022, and appropriations have been set to reflect the salary increase of 2.75 in the Teamsters bargaining unit contract. There's administrative salary increases set to reflect the 2.75% base increase. There's a public employees retirement system cost to reflect a cost per employee of $10,177.73. And there are no changes in the administrative positions in 2022, meaning that the municipal building will continue to operate without adding additional employees. And we have been for a number of years at a minimum staffing essentially within the building to ensure that all operations will continue to move smoothly. As far as salaries for police, they've been incorporated into the 2022 budget in accordance with the collective bargaining agreement at also a 2.75% increase. And police and fire pension costs reflect the cost per officer of $38,437.77. As we have in the past, we will continue with our vehicle acquisition program for police and continue with the purchase of 2 new police cars in 2022, something that we have done every year since I have been mayor. We have always purchased 2 vehicles per year at basically the same rate in which we have to retire vehicles within our police department. And we do that to ensure that there's never a major surge or hit to the budget. I don't believe that it is fruitful to cut theoretically 2 vehicles from this year's budget to save a potential half a point in an effort to keep taxes, at a rate where we fabricate a budget where next year we'll be required to purchase 4 vehicles. And this is something that we have done every single year since I've been mayor. Also of note is that the shared service arrangement with the Borough of Elmwood Park to provide EMS services has terminated effective January 1st, 2022. And those adjustments have been made to the Little Falls services, providing 10 full-time EMTs to cover Little Falls 911 calls exclusively. And these salaries are offset by insurance-funded revenues that we anticipate receiving. As far as insurance costs, unfortunately, they're up $85,450 over last year. This seems to be a common theme in public and private insurances. Costs continue to increase year after year, and everybody's copays continue to go up regardless. So frustrating, but it is a reality. As far as PFRS pension costs, they have increased $104,686. PERS pension costs have increased $120,369. And debt service in 2022 is up from last year, $694,950. As far as capital budget, the capital budget addresses the needs of Township's infrastructure and equipment requirements, and when authorized by the council, it'll continue to make infrastructure improvements needed throughout the township. And as far as the budget schedule and the introduction and public hearing and adoption for the 2022 budget, it's intended that the introduction will occur on March 14th, 2022, and that the public hearing and adoption of this year's budget will occur on April 11th, 2022. So those are some of the highlights in the budget that are now going to be presented to the council for their review. Any questions from the council?
Mayor, seeing no questions from the dais, thank you for the budget report.
The next,
Go ahead, Mayor.
the next item under my reports this evening is a presentation by the Little Falls Historical Society regarding the building at 35 Stevens Avenue, also known as the former municipal building and police station here in Little Falls. I know that a number of years ago, myself, as well as a number of these council members, committed to ensuring that something happened with this building in the future and that it not just remain there a vacant building. And there has been interest recently by the Little Falls Historical Society to potentially make some improvements to this building that'll get it back up and running. And this evening, the Historical Society is going to be presenting some potential options in a creative adaptive reuse plan for this building, which we hope will come to fruition in very short order.
Mr. Veteri, can you hear us?
I can hear you. I don't think my video is enabled though. There we go. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
the
you.
floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council President. Thank you, members of the council. As the mayor mentioned, this is John Veteri on behalf of the Little Falls Historical Society. I want to first thank you for the opportunity to present our plan for this creative adaptive reuse. As we were putting this together, I can remember it's over 20 years ago when we had a role in the Civic Center and what to do with that space back then. And prior to that, we were located in the basement of the library. And for any old timers onto that, prior to that, we were located in Glenn Daniels' garage. C. Evan Daniels was an attorney and a member of the Historic Society. And so we've come a long way, and we think that this is sort of the next step with regard to showing an adaptive reuse. And there were people that said about the Civic Center, that building will never get used. And I think all of us can agree that that theory was debunked. It's a wonderful reuse and used by so many members of the community. And we want to thank the township for their cooperation with the Historical Society, because we've had some great events there and we've had our offices there for over 20 years. So we are proposing a complete renovation of 35 Stevens Avenue with the branding, as we'll show you, as Old Town Hall. paying respect to the past, but looking at what this building can do for the future of Little Falls, for the downtown, for the area, which has really become a very civic area, having the civic center there, the library, school number 1, and a downtown that is only becoming more and more vibrant. The Old Town Hall is featuring the Little Falls Historical Society and Gallery and Museum space, a expanded new exciting space for Ethan and the Bean to expand their programming for the employees that they have with developmental and intellectual disabilities. What will be the first dedicated visitor center, not only for our township, but a visitor center for the Morris Canal. And I know some of you have participated in the walks that the Morris Canal Greenway and Canal Society of New Jersey gives, and they're terrific, but we sort of meet in a parking lot and there's no visitor center anywhere within Passaic County. So we're excited about that. Additionally, it gives the opportunity for some wonderful gallery and exhibition space. The old courtroom and frankly, the entire second floor of the building at 35 Stevens is largely untouched. It's about as it was back in when it was built in 1914. And the courtroom room itself is about 1,200 square feet and gives a great opportunity for some exhibitions. We've had some various art exhibits and historical exhibits at the Civic Center, and it takes a lot of work to put them up. And we cannot disappoint the Jolly Seniors or the Golden Agers, so we have to take them down by the very next morning. So it's been a challenge. We've made it work, but this gives an opportunity, and not just for the Historical Society, but for various nonprofits, for the schools, for arts group, for open mic nights, for history, for culture, for arts. So tonight we have with us, I see a lot of our trustees from the Historical Society. One of our trustees is AJ Alvarez, who is a member of the firm of Plan Architecture LLC, and he has put tremendous work into this. You're going to hear from AJ. We also have with us Pam Donovan and Francesca Swinar of Ethan and the Bean. And I believe I see signed on Kelly Raffel, who is the director of the County of Passaic Department of Cultural and Historical Affairs. So with that said, before we look ahead, I'd like to just take a moment to look to the past. And Mayor, don't worry, we're not going back to 1711, just to 1914. So AJ, if you could call up the first group of slides. And I don't know if we're able to allow AJ to share the slides. There's AJ. Hi, AJ.
Hello, this is telling me that the host has disabled screen sharing on my end, so I'm not sure if I could be changed.
I've also emailed these as PDFs, so I don't know if the
All right,
host
you
is
should be
able
good now.
Try it now. Okay, let's see. Okay.
All right, perfect. Can everyone see that? Right. So I wanted to take, and I promise I'll be brief on this part because we really want to talk about the future of the building, but I think it's super important to understand the past of this building and the importance that it's played in the township. Prior to this building being built in 1914, the township had operations all over town. They had a little jail cell in the bottom of the central building where the old TD Bank used to be. They had a post office on Main Street. They had a tax office on Main Street. They had a space in the old school number 1. And plans started really in the late 1800s to build their own municipal building. So the picture that you see is the oldest picture that we have. This is the dedication of the building in 1914. And you could see that they put on some celebration for this. And we hope to do something of that type of celebration for the rebirth of the building. Okay, AJ, next slide. Okay, here's our fire company. I believe that's probably Eagle Hose Company number 1. And that picture is probably sometime in the early 1920s. And I just want to point out, if you see the tower on the left-hand side, so that was the old, we obviously have a new bell system that was put in years later, but that was the old, it used to be an actual physical bell. And the bell was preserved. So the bell that's up there is actually the bell that is in the firemen's museum, not the Firemen's Museum, but the Firemen's Monument at Memorial Park. So that bell is the same bell that's up there. Okay, next slide. Okay, here's a photograph of the building. It's actually a postcard of the building from 1946. And wanted to show this because you could see the old barn doors that are there. And as you could see, you will see in our plans, we hope to recreate those doors to allow for an outdoor space for Ethan and the Bean. Okay, next slide. So I don't know whatever happened to this, but the area to the north of the building, the grass area that is on the corner of Warren and Stevens, it's always been referred to, or at least many years ago, I don't know if it is now, maybe some of the old timers, but that was the Veterans Plaza. So dating back to from World War I until, you know, more recent times, there was always dedications there. And this, what you're seeing here is an honor roll from after the war. So this was probably put up in 1946, and it listed every single Little Falls resident, as you can see, it's many, that was a veteran of World War II. We have other photographs of this, and I believe we have a full listing of them, but it's you could look at the magnitude of the size that it was huge, and I have no idea whatever happened to it, but I wanted to point it out in that we plan as part of our plan to respect that green space and to continue to have a commemorative space such as that, and a space for reflection and for reading, and an area to respect the past and also host future events. All right, next slide. All right, there he is, Frank Sigler, the only Passaic County resident that won not only the Congressional Medal of Honor that was given to him by President Harry Truman in 1945, but also a Purple Heart. If you read about him, it's incredible what he did saving his fellow veterans. And the Sigler family, he died, I want to say in about 1995 or 1996, and his family donated some significant artifacts. And we're going to talk about, you know, what artifacts we have and how they can be displayed. And currently they're unfortunately just in storage because we don't have an area to display them. So that is, that's something that I think is of interest, and I wanted to point that out. So now this is going into, you can't call it more modern times, but this is 1968. This is the celebration of the incorporation of the town. This is a photograph taken by Elsie Carreri, who those who know is our Michael Russo of the school board. That's his grandmother. She was quite involved in the Historical Society, and this comes from a collection of photographs. But you can see the building hasn't changed much. Lots of celebrations happen there throughout the history of this time. So the building served the town well for almost 100 years. I believe the last to vacate the building were the Little Falls Police Department and the court system back in approximately 2014. And now we move forward, and we move forward 108 years to 2022. And we see that by showing these pictures, this building played a very important part in the past of Little Falls, but we feel that it's going to play an even more important role as the town continues to grow and develop for the future of Little Falls, and really as a future landmark. So AJ, if you would call up the next group of slides. And stop me at any time if anyone has any questions, or if you just simply want to stop me. Okay, so here's an overview. This is Old Town Hall. As you can see, it's essentially the same building with the hip roof, built in 1914. Building has elements of the, I will not call it federal style or get hollered at by Mr. Eaton. This is in the Prairie School style with the large eaves and overhangs. The exterior hasn't changed all that much with the exception of the entrance area on Warren Street, where you see that was added on probably in the 50s or 60s, right? That over there. And the barn doors were taken out. The windows were also replaced. There may be one or two original windows, but the building has largely remained the same. Okay, next slide. All right, we've talked a lot about the history already, so I'm not going to belabor the point. The only thing I note here is that in 1990, the New Jersey State Historic Preservation Office studied the building. In the packets that I submitted to the mayor and council, I included their comments on the building, which led to them at least designating a certificate of eligibility for the building. And we talk here a little bit about the tapestry brick style and the Prairie School style of this building. All right, next slide. Okay, so here's a good opportunity just to give a conceptual overview, and AJ is going to go through the elevations and the floor plans in a lot more detail. But the idea of putting this together was to marry various nonprofits to create a vibrant use for the space, because many times we see, and we can look in other towns, old museums, and they don't seem to be used much, and that's not what we wanted. We wanted this to be something that serves the community and serves a large cross section of everyone in the community. So, you know, the most prominent spot of this, taking over the entire southern side of the building, is the Ethan and the Bean Coffee House with their education and training center, with the opportunity for them to expand their menu and to actually roast coffee in there. Gives them an opportunity to hire more employees, which is their mission. And I'm not going to steal their thunder. We also have the, the Little Falls Historical Society Museum and Gift Shop. And I'm just going to take a second to, as people say, what could you possibly have to display for the Little Falls Museum? But if anyone's been upstairs at the Civic Center or has seen our private storage, we have so much to display. We have original artwork. We have archives from Beatty's Mill, Sindel Mill, from Palo Abbey. We have almost the entire collection of the Little Falls Laundry. We have Griff Teller, who was an artist here. We have original artwork. He was one of the most famous Pennsylvania Railroad artists. And unfortunately, we have original Beatty carpets. And the large part of the Little Falls collection is on loan at the Textile Museum. So we would hope to get some of that back to be able to display here, even though our display space is not very big. That northern side of the building to the right of the door, and we'll look at the floor plans in a moment, I think it's only about 400 square feet. But what's great about it is it already includes 2 safes. Currently, we occupy the safe at the Civic Center, but this is a great opportunity to have that to protect these things that we couldn't ever replicate. So in addition to having that, we've had so much talk with the Canal Societies of New Jersey, and they've been a great partners of the Passaic County Historical Society and Little Falls for years, for decades. As I mentioned earlier, there is no space right now for a dedicated Morris Canal Visitor Center, and that's something that was such a huge part of the township. Having the aqueduct is really the most celebrated feature of the former Morris Canal. And so much of our parks, including Memorial Park, are sitting on the bed of the Morris Canal. And it's interesting to note that of, I believe, every town in Passaic County, no town greater than Little Falls has preserved the majority of the canal. There's very few spots of the canal that actually aren't preserved, and that's really super unusual. So in addition to having the dedicated spaces for Ethan and the Bean, for the Little Falls Historical Society, and for the Morris Canal, we also have the spaces upstairs, which would serve as offices for the Historical Society, for research, a local reading room for local history, and then the exhibition area that will be open to all sorts of groups, theater groups, improv, open mic, historical lectures, and we have a space for live performance. I think our occupancy in that room is somewhere around 120, so it's a nice size and gives a nice opportunity for various nonprofits. Okay, AJ, next slide. Okay, AJ, you're going to take this on the next where we show the floor plans. That's just showing the floor plan of the museum space. So let's go forward. And this is a picture of the Morris Canal. I'm not sure why we picked this one. That is a section of the Morris Canal. We should have put the aqueduct over the Passaic River, but that's a nice picture of the canal nonetheless. So I'd like to move forward with the next slide, which I believe should be the Ethan and the Bean. And I'd like to introduce Pam Donovan. Many of you know her from Ethan and the Bean. To know her is to love her. Pam. There she is. Hi, Pam. You're on mute, Pam.
We may be muted.
Okay, sorry.
There you go.
Sorry.
Okay,
Sorry.
Pam, I'll let you take it from here as to what this space will mean for your organization and speak a little bit about that.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Council, for having us. Thank you, John and AJ, for all your efforts and this wonderful opportunity.
that's being presented for Ethan and the Bean, because we are truly just amazed, and we have all kinds of amazing things that we want to do in the space. And we definitely think that Ethan and the Bean being able to go from, I think we have about maybe 400 square feet in our current space. And this would sort of more than double the opportunity for us to employ individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, as that's our main goal and that's our main mission, to train and employ. We currently have about approximately 30 individuals on our wait list currently for employment. So this would be a super opportunity. But just given the space alone, if we're able to be granted an opportunity for a roaster within the cafe, it creates just more meaningful training and employment opportunities within the hospitality industry. And we're also looking to reach out within the community of Little Falls, not to just be, within Ethan and the Bean to be employed, but other opportunities that would exist within our local restaurants and cafes, ice cream shops, and of that nature. So we would have that opportunity for training and also packaging, our online e-commerce, but it also tie into the township's just revitalization of the downtown. And just want to say that we are super grateful to be where we are, and we absolutely do love being within Little Falls, but we also have kind of morphed into taking individuals, abilities and turning them into greater opportunities within the marketplace. So we hope to be able to do that within this space that we're being, hopefully being granted and gifted. And we are definitely on target for, we have no doubts in our mind that we are able to raise the funds. And I know John has talk about that later. So if I need to chime in there, I definitely will. But we have no doubt in our minds that we can do this. We're grateful for the opportunity to even have this window to present and be able to restore this building. And we definitely think that it's going to be an absolute asset to the downtown. And we just also wanted to express that we have a whole community outreach, which again, our little cafe is kind of morphed into a few different areas, but the expansion would be to increase our baked goods, to increase our skill sets for our, a community that is well under, which is marginalized by an 80% rate of unemployment rate within the nation, but actually within the county of Little Falls, it's the unemployment rate is about 16%. So we hope to make a dent in that and reduce that number. We're partnering with our local, with the local community as well as the school districts. So we're providing a program there that trains and employs individuals with disabilities within the work setting with a vocational training program, not only for age children 15 to 21, which is transition to adult life, but we've also reached out to other individuals that are far older than that. And within our employees, we have individuals for the first time, some being in their 40s, the very first work experience that they've ever had. But we definitely think that this will bring more, equal opportunity employment for these individuals in this space, not only in roasting, not only in hospitality and service, but also we want to be able to, we also tap into other areas of, opportunity with our individuals. And we've let John know that we definitely have opportunities for individuals that could look to archive, information for the Morris Canal and also for the Historical Society. They're quite talented and definitely bring something to the table as far as outside of just the cafe and hospitality. But I also want to introduce you to Francesca, who is also within our Ethan and the Bean. She's our social media, our community outreach. But I want to just let her give you a little background of what we've been able to offer and the expansion of in this space, what it would bring to the community, both those with disabilities and those that are typical individuals and the awareness to society within our community. So I'm going to turn that over to Francesca for a few minutes
Great.
and let her give you a little insight on what we have to offer and what we can do as a community, given the opportunity. So Francesca, please.
Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Pam. Thank you all for having us. As Pam said, we are combating an egregious epidemic of underemployment and unemployment for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And in desiring to change that statistic, we've uncovered that all of these individuals, oh, here's Stella, forgive me. All of these individuals are also vibrant contributors in the arts. So what we've been able to do is, while we're combating unemployment, we've also expanded our community-centered programming to make the arts and fitness and culinary arts and everything from painting to yoga to tennis to be more adaptive and inclusive. So we've been able to develop some community-centered partnerships with local businesses and local makers and local artisans to expand our programming to exceed the hours that we are open as a functioning coffee shop. And we've been able to provide this programming for, again, an underserved, marginalized community that is seeking opportunities to be seen, to be celebrated, and to be included. So while we've reached the capacity at which we're able to serve people and provide jobs during the day, we haven't exceeded our capacity just yet to provide recreational programming after hours as well. So we're expanding that scope. And what would it look like to be able to expand into 35 Stevens would give us the potential to expand the scope of our baking and our coffee production and the options that we provide on our menus, as well as the expansion of the vibrancy of the community programming that we're able to expand and provide. And then also the breadth of people that we're able to engage from various other touch points in their lives. I think it's been really illuminating for us to see that while a job is critically important, once you have a job, you have to also be able to share the other skills and the other things that make you so vibrant. And this is a population that wants to both share their art and share their abilities and share their work, and they're not being given an adequate chance to do so. And this is, again, a population that wants to work in a climate where many people do not want to work. So we're hopeful that we could expand this opportunity both recreationally and from an employment perspective, and continue to expand our community-centered partnerships in both tennis, the arts, culinary arts, and making. We have some vending opportunities where we bring artists and makers in to do some on-site training of our individuals. And really the sky's the limit in terms of the way that we could expand the offerings, both to the individuals that we serve and support, and the vibrance that they can bring to the community once they are seen and empowered to do what is so natural to them and sadly is so often denied to them. So I won't belabor the point, but we have a beautiful amount of potential if we should expand both in size and scale and scope up 35 Stevens Avenue. And we're so excited and thankful for the opportunity to do that.
Thanks, Francesca. I'm going to turn it over now to AJ. AJ, if you would go over the floor plans and then lead that into your discussion of the elevations.
Sure, will do.
Wait, you passed over the Singac brick. What was that?
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, there's some more history
Okay, no, we've
that
done
we
enough
can
of that.
display.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to get over to this floor plan. And thank you to the town council for having us tonight. It's hard to follow John's presentation and Pam's presentation and Francesca. So I won't keep you for too long talking about the technical aspects of the building, other than to say, well, full disclosure, first and foremost, I am a Little Falls resident and primarily grew up in Little Falls, not just a professional that was brought in to look at this building. That being said, when it came time to see how we could rehabilitate it, I took any sort of sentimental feelings out of the equation and just said, how can we best get from A to B? How can we best take this abandoned 100-year-old building and update it and modernize it in a very efficient way, in a very budget-friendly way. And so I'll start with the first floor plan and just kind of walk you through these color-coded spaces, so that sort of coffee-colored brown space that you see on the left-hand side. So the front of the building is at the bottom of the page. That would be Ethan and the Beans space, and they also We'll have another space toward the rear of the building where they will do some training. And we will update the restrooms that are there to make them accessible for those with disabilities, AKA ADA restrooms. So on the other side of the building, we're leaving a lot of what's already there. And what's so great about 35 Stevens is a lot of times when you are working on an older building, a lot of money and effort has to go into making it accessible for those that are handicapped. And that's just not the case here. We got really lucky in that there's already a ramp on the Warren Street side, and there's already an elevator. And that's huge, because putting an elevator in and modifying floor structure and bringing the appropriate amount of electricity to run an elevator, et cetera, can take a long time and can be very expensive. And so we really lucked out with that. And it's really just a matter of updating the restrooms on both levels as a result. As you move toward the front of the building, that light blue space that you see, that's the Morris Canal Learning Center. Obviously, 35 Stevens is in a great location for Morris Canal because you could walk to part of the canal. And so it's great for people who are visiting from out of the area. It's also great because it's right across the street from School 1 and the library. So if there are opportunities to bring in the kids from school, it's just a quick walk across the street. And those who went through the Little Falls school system, as I did, may remember the mock trials that happened upstairs in the old courtroom, or perhaps even getting fingerprinted downstairs. I certainly do. At the front of the building, that green space, that is the Little Falls Historical Society space, and museum and gift shop that John was referring to. And what's great about this, as opposed to where LFHS is now in the Civic Center, is that there's just more storage here, and there's a dedicated space for putting artifacts on display. We could have rotating exhibits, and also the two safes in there provide storage, but also they're interesting to look at, certainly for visitors. But the overall gist is that we are keeping a lot of the existing building intact, which really helps with the timeline in completing the construction, and also kind of keeping our budget in check.
AJ, just mention the pressed tin ceilings that you found underneath the drop ceilings.
Okay, yeah. I mean, so I will talk about too the architecture of the building when we get to the exteriors. But I mean, this building is full of really great old details that I can tell you, in my business, people spend extra money to put in. This building kind of already comes preloaded with those. And among those are the tin ceilings that are throughout the first floor. So we're going to try our very best to save those details as much as possible. And those would be occurring where you see the green space here and in the Ethan and the Bean space. And so I wish I could show you better than what we already have prepared, what the inside of this building could look like, as much as we're showing you the outside. But it really, there's a huge opportunity here to create some really beautiful spaces where people are going to want to spend time. Okay, so I'll move upstairs. Okay, and so as John mentioned, we have the wonderful old courtroom, which is all that light blue space, the large room toward the back of the building, which is a flexible space, which could be used for a number of different things, not the least of which is an art gallery or community theater space. And actually just speaking into various artists that I'm friends with and colleagues, they all would jump at the chance to exhibit their work here. And as John mentioned, as opposed to the Civic Center, this could be something where you have an exhibit that continues for a month, the same way museums do. The rest of the space, that light green space, is also office space for Little Falls Historic Society and some storage. And again, the main goal here was to leave as much of it intact as possible. In fact, there's only a very small amount of framing work that would happen here, and that would be at the front of the building. down here where if you've been in the building, you've seen those two very small, very old little restrooms. Those would be removed and replaced with a modern, what we call barrier-free, ADA accessible restroom. And the rest of it virtually stays completely intact as the way it is now. And so there's not a lot of work up here. And again, that reduces our timeline and our budget. And it's also worth pointing out that we are taking the extra step to even put in these restrooms. Technically speaking, there are a number of provisions in the code that would allow us to come in and simply, redo the finishes, throw some paint up and leave the restrooms exactly as they are. Because the building is already set up in some ways for ADA accessibility, it makes a lot of sense to do this. And so that's true of both levels here. I will also show you an example where this has happened locally. So some of you may be familiar with the Ray House in Hawthorne. That was also a historic structure that was redone. And you can see from these pictures, or if you visited, that they have some of the same uses that we're proposing, i.e. an art gallery space, gathering space up on their second floor, which is a flex space that could be used for a number of different things. And it's a wonderful place to spend time. And I think it's something that the community of Little Falls could definitely benefit from. So I'd love to show you the exterior. John, was there anything else in this slideshow
Nope,
that you
I
wanted me
think
to
that's
touch on?
terrific. No, if you could move on
Okay.
to the exterior elevations.
Okay. So the exterior. So this is kind of my favorite part of this whole project. And the renderings that you see here are not sort of hyper colorized or unrealistic renderings. I mean, this is the building pretty much the way it is. Those are the grille patterns in the existing windows. Those are the colors and materials that are there now. And it's worth mentioning that because I can tell you for a fact that exactly nobody is constructing buildings like this anymore. You can see that in Little Falls. If you go back over the last 100 years or so and drive through Little Falls, it's sort of a running timeline of whatever was trending in whatever decade in terms of the architecture. And if you want to talk about something that's timeless and something that's going to look good 20, 50, 100 years from now, it's buildings like these. I think architecturally, it's among the best that Little Falls has to offer. We have this, we have a few brownstone structures, we have places like the mill. A lot, I would argue, a lot of the newer construction, at least aesthetically, is just not going to hold up as well. And to assuage any concerns about the structure of the building, this is truly one of those cases where the phrase "they don't build them like they used to" is not hyperbole. This old lady has really good bones. So again, our mission here, or my mission when I was approached to work on the building, was to keep as much of it intact as possible. So we're also, again, preserving that green space on the corner. It's worth mentioning, and you see this in urban environments everywhere, green spaces are sometimes hard to come by, or communities go through a lot of effort to bring back green spaces. And so again, we got lucky here because there's already a green space and there's already a historical connection to that space. It's also worth mentioning there's not a ton of green space immediately in downtown Little Falls. And so this becomes a great sort of outdoor space for the public to gather, whereas they really couldn't before when it's a municipal building. So I think you guys have hopefully scrolled through these images that were given to you. And you can see again what we're doing there with the Ethan and Bean space. And then this is one of my favorite moments. Actually, credit for this artwork idea goes to John. So this artwork could be changing. There could be permanent murals here. We could have a local artist who's very well known paint a mural. The Little Falls school system could paint murals. But taking those sort of closed up, ugly windows that are just concrete now and doing something really beautiful with them, including outdoor artwork on the south side of the building.
I think in fairness, the idea goes to Superintendent Marinelli. But I communicated it to the board.
Okay.
All right,
And then there's another.
AJ, anything else on the elevations?
I don't think so.
All right, so I'm trying to be cognizant of the time here. We did submit to the board the the cost projections that AJ worked on, and AJ has also worked on not only elevations and floor plans, but actually detailed construction drawings to allow for contractors to be able to make bids and to look at the building. Prior to getting into this, we had received a grant from the Passaic County Open Space Trust Fund to do a needs assessment of the building, which involved structure, environmental, et cetera. And the building was found to be structurally sound, environmentally safe, and it allowed us to take it to the next step and then to start looking at an actual renovation and construction plan. So I think if you don't have any other questions with respect to that, we do have with us tonight to answer any questions, Kelly Raffel from the county, who's been just tremendous at answering questions for us, and she has tremendous knowledge about historical buildings. She's been with us looking at this building and helping us to put this together. So we want to thank her for that. And she is available to talk about funding opportunities. I did include a little detail in the packet. I will just note that sometime around the end of last year, maybe in November, we challenged each other, Ethan and the Bean and the Historical Society, to raise $100,000 each in seed capital, totally earmarked toward this building and not for other programming. And I'm happy to say that we have each done and exceeded that. And that is money in, not promises. So we're happy to say that we have a significant amount of seed capital to start this. We're eager to file the grants for the slate roof and AJ, the handicap accessible bathrooms, I believe, are the two pending grants. And we are here to answer any questions. And Kelly, I believe, is still on if you would like to hear from her as well.
Kelly, are you with us?
I am.
Good, the floor is yours.
Oh, well, good evening, everyone. I won't take up more time.
I'm sorry, Kelly, your last name?
Oh, it's Raffel, Ruffel. So good evening. Thank you for having me join in this session, and of course, the Little Falls Historical Society. I'm very excited about this project. It's definitely great to see an adaptive reuse project in the county and in the township of Little Falls. We are actively looking at various grant opportunities. There's a lot more preservation grant money out there than it has been in years past. So it's a very good time to bring a project like this up. Two of the programs, we have our Open Space Trust Fund, which you're all familiar with, but last year we also established the Passaic County Historic Trust Fund, which is geared towards planning and construction or capital improvements for historic preservation activities. There is no match requirement. The New Jersey Historic Trust, in addition, now has pots of funding that is up to $10 million that they're giving out annually. Depending on the tier that you're applying for, there is some match there, but I do know that with donations and support from the community, the Little Falls Historical Society is already well on their way to securing their matches for their grants. So I'll continue to provide our resources to the Little Falls Historical Society and help wherever is needed. And of course, if there's any questions, and even when we get to programming, we are happy to lend a hand as well. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Kelly. Thanks for all your help in this. Okay, that concludes our presentation.
Mr. Vettery?
Yes.
Can you talk about more of the costs of the spreadsheets, the timing of construction and the funding?
Sure. Yes. So I don't think, AJ, I don't know if you have that slide, but I may just have to go over that. So what we put together in terms of cost And I'll go over the phasing first. So in the packets that I had submitted, we have phasing it as follows. We have 4 phases. So the first phase would be, okay. The first phase would be just the removal of the contents. Early on, when the police left, I had assisted them, and the Historic Society assisted, I believe it was Officer John Vanek, who sort of, I guess, acts like the historian there, and he's a great resource, and he's done a great job creating that little space in between the municipal building and the police station to bring a lot of the archives over there. Luckily, they were not damaged with any water in the building at 35 Stevens, but about 8 file cabinets were brought over to the basement of 225 Main at that time. I guess that was about 8 years ago. And but there's still quite a lot of stuff in that building. Forget demolition. There's chairs, there's file cabinets, there's some old radio equipment. So I guess one of the first things would be the removal of all contents and then the demolition plan. So the as AJ mentioned, there's really, aside from the bathroom on the second floor, there's no demolition whatsoever. The walls are pretty intact. They're heavy plaster. They do need significant repair, but the demo plan is primarily downstairs. So almost the entirety of the northern side needs to be demolished. There's a little bit of a grade issue there. For some reason, when I guess when Eagle Hose moved to Wilmore Road in the 50s, they built that area up by about 6 inches. So that little area of buildup has to be excavated to grade. And the bathrooms we're proposing to relocate them to the back so they have a nice big wide open space. So the demolition would be in that first phase as well. So there's, and that's about a 60-day process. So phase 2 would be making sure that we have a nice airtight roof and that we don't have a water issue in the basement. So we have basement waterproofing and the construction or restoration of the slate roof. Believe it or not, the roof on the building is original. And it's not uncommon for an old building for these slate roofs to last 100, 150, 200 years if they're improved. When I was on the board at Lambert's Castle, we had endeavored to modify the roof and change the roof there, also a slate roof. And so we reached out to some of the same contractors that were used there. There's an estimate that was put in your package from Low Roofing that has substantial experience with slate roofs and to reconstruct the Yankee gutter system. That's also in phase 2. And then all of the MEP. So MEP being the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. Everything that's there has to be removed. So the mechanical system, right now it's a hodgepodge of window units, electric baseboard. I'm not even sure what's upstairs, but that all needs to be removed. We had the MEP consultant and the HVAC contractor look at the building and make recommendations for putting in a separate forced hot air system with central air conditioning, separately metered, one for the Ethan and the Bean space, one for the Morris Canal and the other part of the first floor, and then another system upstairs with the units being in the attic, so not to take up any space. All the old radiators get removed. We also have in phase 2, the construction of the ADA bathrooms, any first floor framing, repair of the lift. We were able to contact the contractor in Secaucus that serviced the lift. And the only thing they could report that was as of December of, I guess, 2013 or 14, it was still operable. AJ's just pulling up the, this is the detailed budget, which was submitted in the packets. And I think lastly, in phase 2 is to construct a platform for the rear entrance. The rear entrance is an area that needs some work, needs a new door, and there's some like a plastic or metal hut that's built over it that all needs to come out. So a lot of work is being done in phase 2. Phase 3 is the build out of the Ethan and the Bean space. This is more of the fun stuff of putting stuff back together, the sheetrock, the lighting, the walls, building out the Morris Canal visitor space. Again, we're not changing the structure of that room or where the old tax office used to be at all. And the build out of the east and west hallways. And we have 9-month increments for both phase 2 and 9 months for phase 3. Phase 4 is the full renovation of the second floor space, including the plaster repair, lighting, flooring, and painting. And then lastly would be the landscaping and hardscaping. So as to the cost, this, okay, so AJ, you have the cost up. So we have $659,985. And there are some adjustments to the more recent version based upon some updates, but that's a good number supported by estimates as to what this will cost in order to renovate the building based upon the plans that were prepared by us.
Could I also just throw into that? I think a 2-year total time frame for this work is probably what we're looking at realistically, and the budget as well. I manage a lot of bidding for our projects, and this seems like a very realistic budget.
Yeah, I mean, in a private world, they would say you're not. This is ridiculous that it would take 2 years. But I think, given the funding and the grants that we're getting and how this is being done, I think that's a very fair time frame.
Can you move into the final item, funding, Mr. Vedri? Before we proceed, AJ, I know everybody refers you as AJ, but for the record, can we have your first and last name?
Sure, it's Adriel Alvarez. I'll spell that for you. First name is Adriel, Adriel. Last name Alvarez, Alvarez.
Thank you. We'll need that for the record. Mr. Vedri, funding?
Okay, sure, Council President. So the funding that we've looked at, and I put together just some high-level bullet points. We have, as I mentioned, we've raised $200,000 to date. We have pledges for significantly more, but they're not in, and I didn't think it would be fair to put that down. But the $200,000 is in the door already, and that is just without a fundraising campaign. So, should we have the opportunity to do this, we plan on embarking on a significant fundraising campaign with naming opportunities and seeking grants from corporations and foundations, in addition to the private donors, in addition to our 60-year mailing list of those that are very interested in seeing this happen. We have filed letters of intent for the grants that Kelly was mentioning to the Passaic County Historic Trust. And what that would be is, one of them was for the slate roof, and the other was a grant for the construction and payment for the 3 handicap accessible bathrooms. So we, as a nonprofit, I believe we're capped, and Kelly can correct me if I'm wrong, we're able to apply for 2 grants per year. So we thought that made the most sense. We have enough funding right now to work on the MEP and to work on the waterproofing of the basement. But we thought the slate roof and the handicap accessible bathrooms would be huge if we could get those grants. So we have submitted letters of intent subject to entering into an agreement and a lease agreement with the township for those. In addition, Kelly and our board participated in a call with Glenn Saponis from the New Jersey Historic Preservation, and they have pretty significant grants out there that dovetail nicely into what we're doing, particularly in that we have a partner in Ethan and the Bean that is also a nonprofit. And what he really liked about this was, again, what I was saying, they don't want to see a building get renovated that doesn't have a vibrant use, just to renovate it for the sake of it being renovated. But they thought that this would get to the top of the list, having the vibrant use of the Morris Canal Visitor Center, an arts center, historical center, and very importantly, Ethan and the Bean. So we're in the process of working on those. And as soon as we have legal standing in order to do that, we will proceed accordingly. So we're very confident in our ability to raise the full funds. And I think what's nice about our funding plan is we're not dependent on any one thing. So if we don't get If we're not able to get a foundation grant or a corporate grant, we have a dozen sources for getting funding, and we're fully committed to putting, in addition to the earmark money that we've saved from the Historical Society over the last 50 or 60 years into this project, which we've done already in coming up with this plan.
Thank you, Mr. Vetery, and to all those who participated this evening talking about this plan for the old police station, 35 Stevens Avenues. At this time, we're going to open up questions from the council and the mayor. Let's do this in a way that we work with the questions from funding all the way to the number one. We'll work backwards. So those council members or mayor who have any questions regarding funding, please ask those questions at this time.
I'll ask.
Councilman Quaddi.
So the budget estimate, I'm just curious, what point does that get you to? Does that include Ethan and the Bean being fully outfitted as a coffee shop, or does it just get you up to code?
So there's a little bit of a hybrid. You know, we're promising to give them more than just what you would call in construction industry a vanilla box. And then they would be responsible for the particular build out. So we would take on the responsibility for the bathrooms and to have the hookups there ready for the sinks that they need. And Pam can speak to this. They have a grant that they're currently waiting on. It's an additional $100,000 grant for the roasting machine and for the additional equipment that they would need as a result of the expansion of their programming. Pam, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I can add a little bit to that as well, because yes, we do have, just like John had mentioned, we have multiple, being a non-for-profit, we do have multiple sourcings, not only just for corporations, but from grant writing as well. But we already have about 100K earmarked from last year that we raised towards this project. And we have the potential of, we just completed another grant opportunity, which is Impact Garden State. So that's a potential of 100K. And we also have other grants that tie in with the expansion and that we're able to look into as far as historical perspective. We can access some of those grant opportunities, but we also have just coming up, as a matter of fact, right out of the box, within the next couple of weeks, we have an opportunity for a gift donor match. So that potential there is 40,000. So we're definitely on our way to, we are estimating that the cost of the build out to probably be somewhere around 350,000, just to get it up to speed, all the equipment that we know, but we already own and possess, our own equipment. We own it outright. So we'll be moving some of that equipment into the space, but also potentially keeping the space that we're in for other opportunities. So we are working, we have an annual golf outing, which normally raises close to 100K. So that's coming up as well in July. And we also are looking to have, Mayor Damiano is not going to like me for this, but we're looking also to have a 5K run that brings a national awareness to employment opportunities for individuals with disabilities, and hope to be able to host it in Little Falls. So we have multiple revenue streams that we're also looking at, just like John. So we definitely have close to 100 to 200K earmarked for the project. And we're looking forward to other opportunities. And we also brought a grant writer on board with us as well. So we have a permanent grant writer in position. So we have various opportunities for 3 other grants that we are in the process of working on for restoration and expansion. So that will give us some more revenue. But we have no doubt in our minds that we can definitely do this. There's no doubt. I have no doubt. So hopefully that's a good opportunity and segue back into John for other.
Thanks, Pam.
So I'm sorry, did you say 150,000 or 350,000 for the build out, for the restaurant portion build out?
I think the restaurant building portion, just given what we know already, and being that it's expanded space, it's basically double in size, a little bit more than double in size. We think it's probably going to be an estimated. We've done some bidding and put out for our equipment and just in interior. It'll probably be around a 350K for the build out, and that would be completed.
So that, the project's $1 million project,
Mm.
as we've seen the renderings of it. Is that fair, Mr. Vettery?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I can't really speak to their equipment purchases because we really haven't been too involved in that like we weren't when they opened up at 98 Main. But so, you know, we're taking on the responsibility for all of the rough plumbing, for instance, all of the lighting, finishing the walls, but the equipment, like putting in, like, I mean, the roasting machine itself is probably 100,000. So that would be
Yeah.
100,000 of that. And
Yeah,
then,
and obviously this doesn't depend on a roasting machine, right? Let's
Right.
face it.
yeah,
I understand that.
yeah. So yes, but yeah, could be.
Right.
Okay. I will tell you that in anticipation of your presentation, I spoke to Superintendent Marinelli today, and I know that she has been interested in finding space for a teen center. And she mentioned to me today that if there were room for a teen center portion of this to happen, that the schools might be able to help with grant money, even, you know, potentially a shared staffing agreement or something like that with it. So just throwing that out there to you as an avenue that you may find worth exploring, if you feel like you have some space available to the schools to cooperate with them on a project like that.
Yeah, we've spoken to Superintendent Marinelli several times, more focused on the programming aspects of it with respect to the arts. And we have a probably 25-year history of teaching the 5th grade, the civics class, and we go take them on a walking tour of the whole town. We've been doing that for a long time, and it's a great experience. I picked it up from Cliff Swisher, who picked it up from Mrs. Lane. So it's been a good experience. But yeah, we're interested in hearing from all members of the community.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Vettery, what was presented as far as the estimate of bringing the old police station up to the standards that you're presenting us to tonight, sort of is like there's two entities, one with Ethan being and one without. So you have $100,000 seed money, and that $650,000 is bringing the old police station up to that standard. Ethan and Bean, I don't want to say is on their own, but that's a separate entity of them getting monies to bring their establishment up to par for customers to come into the door. So am I right in saying that?
Well, the Ethan and the Bean, the portion of the money that that other 100 that we challenged them to raise is money that's going towards this building, not their, that's separate and apart from the fundraising efforts for their particular build out.
Okay, so then Ethan and Bean and the Historical Society has $200,000 that you
to go
raised
towards that 650.
to go towards the old police station. And then the build out of Ethan and Bean, that's other monies that they'll find from somewhere else.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Pam, would you raise at your last golf outing? 80, 100? She's a pretty good fundraiser.
We actually were very successful. Last year we raised 75K. So our goal this year obviously is to raise 125 to 150K. So we have a lot of corporate support, and we definitely intend to do those, we intend to do those numbers. We definitely stay local. Our golf outing is local to Little Falls. It's, when I say local, it's only like 15 minutes away. So we're in Bloomfield, but definitely looking, our goal this year would be between 125 and 150. And we really don't, we normally have about 95% of our golfers and supporters signed up, usually at least over a month prior to the outing. So we've been very fortunate in that respect, that we kind of have a gauge of, what our end result is going to look like. And we also have Impact 100, which is a potential of 100K, which we should know about probably coming. I want to say July is the final date. So we should have that. And then our 40K donor match is starting up within the next probably week or two. So we definitely know that that's, going to be, that will be taking part in that. So, and then we do have 3 other grant opportunities that are in the works.
Great. Thanks, Pam.
Thank you.
As far as the grants go, the grants would be for specific items for bathrooms, roof. Is that correct, Mr. Vedri?
So the grants
Would
that,
be for,
yeah, we submitted letters of intent for the roof and for the handicap accessible bathrooms. And the limit on those is, I believe, $50,000 each. So as a nonprofit, we were able to, I would love to file for 4 of them, but we were only permitted to file for 2. But that was good, better than just 1. And I think those are two areas of the building that are critical to helping us, make sure that the building is, watertight, and that we have now 3 handicap accessible bathrooms, because the current bathrooms are in desperate need of being redone, and they're not ADA.
does the council mayor have any questions regarding funding?
Yes, I do, Council
Okay,
President.
council member Hablitz, the floor is yours.
So I have a question, Mr. Vera. You just said that the grants that you were allowed to apply for are 2 per year?
Well, for that particular, for the Passaic County Historic Trust.
But it is per year, and this is a 2-year project. So could you apply for 2 more the following year for other parts of the project?
Oh, definitely, and we intend to.
And my second question is, as I'm going over your demolition, I see that we talked about sub pumps, French drains, all things with regards to the basement. Being that it's an older building, is there asbestos, and would there be any asbestos removal or remediation that would need to be included in this quote?
So we've had Echo Sciences is a well-known environmental company who studied the building on our behalf, doing indoor air quality testing, groundwater testing, soil testing, looking at the asbestos. Very shortly prior to the police moving out of the building, OSHA required the asbestos be encapsulated, which is a valid form of remediation of the asbestos. So, but however, to the extent if we were to, I believe the tile downstairs is not asbestos. The tile upstairs in some of the offices may be, which is not uncommon. We see that in our schools, and as long as we're not unearthing that, we would not have to be. But to the extent we have to, that would be part of what we're doing. But luckily, it was the asbestos in the basement was encapsulated.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I just like to guess, is it Ms. Donovan, who's the proprietor, the owner of Ethan the Bean, or who runs
Yeah.
that? Yes, okay.
It is.
So I'm hearing such really great numbers. I haven't played golf. I go to golf outings for 5 years. And to hear $75,000 or $100,000 is quite impressive. So you run these golf outings, and what are you doing with those monies? Is this in anticipation of relocating your business?
Yes, we actually have been talking to John about this. I mean, he was kind enough to approach us. Excuse me 1 second. I just have to make sure I don't run out of battery and lose you. Yes, we have definitely anticipated this opportunity with growth, but we always had told John that I'm sorry, just give me 1 second. I just don't want to lose you. I apologize. It's been a long day here. I'm sure you guys too. But yes, we have definitely been raising money for funds in hoping to move into stay within Little Falls, because we are so grateful to be where we are, and we have been more than welcome within this community. So we are just truly grateful for that. But we wanted to be able to move. We know that we cannot carry out our mission in the space that we're in. It is just too small for us. Like I mentioned, we have like 30 something people already on our current wait list for employment. We want to be able to fulfill those opportunities and grow and expand. And we kind of have just been earmarking these monies to do that, because once we got into the space, within less than a year, even COVID came, and in less than a year, we were already having, there's people that are calling us from all over the world, and I'm not even exaggerating, and I've done this myself too, because we were inspired by another coffee shop that's outside of the state, and just wanting to know, how do we do this? How can we get involved? How can we duplicate this program? So we've been working towards moving, and John had approached us, and we have been We have giant renderings of our new space at 35 Stevens Avenue. And we have been so fortunate that my husband and I both have been in the same industry. We also work full-time as well, in addition to Ethan and the Bean. So we've had customers for over 20 years that have been truly a godsend to support us. And they have come out in droves. Like, we definitely don't even think we're going to be able to stay at our current location for golf because we don't have enough room.
Thank
And
you.
that is being grateful. So
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions regarding the timing of construction? Renovations?
Well, actually, regarding the timing, what would be a potential start date?
We would love to start ASAP. If we're given the ability, we'd like to start with the phase one immediately.
Right, because it seems like you have the funding for at least phase one already, right?
Yes, we do.
Does the mayor and council have any other questions regarding exterior elevations?
I guess I just have one quick question, just
Councilmember Seaver, the floor is yours.
thank you. Just a point of clarification, because I see in the plan, it's the building, and then there's also in the budget here for hardscape and landscape, and the maintenance of that area will also be taken place by the Historical Society.
So we submitted a draft lease agreement to Councilor Wenzel, and in that agreement, it does say that the Historical Society would be responsible for the inside maintenance, but the area, what I always have called Veterans Plaza area, that grass area was the responsibility of the township.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Alvarez, can you bring up the slide of Ethan the Bean, the floor plan, please? Is that possible? Is he-
Or just give me one moment.
So I think I heard before the establishment wanted to do more baking and coffee roasting.
Bean roast.
Yeah, there. And I guess I just don't, and I was told, I think in the presentation, the back room was going to be for teaching and training. So I'm losing the schematic of like how that's all going to take place in that space.
Sure. So
Well,
it's
do you want to call up? I don't know. We do. Mr. Scope is good at looking at these. So we have an updated plan that moves the bathrooms to the back, because when they looked at that for the roaster, this current configuration didn't work as well. We just didn't have time to integrate it into this plan. But there is an update to that makes the Ethan and the Bean space contiguous without having the separation of the back. I don't know if you're able to easily call that other plan up, but I think that
That's
would
fine.
answer. I think that
That's
would
fine. It's
answer.
on that. I just want to get clarification. because-
Yeah, you bring up a great point. That would answer Councilman Scoba's question. He also brought up on other planning board applications when the windows didn't line up. So he has a good eye for this stuff.
Yeah, so I don't have the plan available, but I can answer your question very easily. My initial approach to the floor plan was to locate the plumbing where the existing plumbing is. Again, to minimize the impact of the demolition of the interior of the building. The plans have since been updated to relocate those restrooms after speaking to Pam Donovan and her team as far as what their needs would be. And so that basically, as you look at the plan that's on your screen right now, that brown space that you see in the upper left-hand corner would just shift down and sort of connect with the brown space in the front, and the restrooms would go toward the back of the building.
Thank you, because this plan really does depend a lot on the success of Ethan and the Bean, so I just wanted to get some input on that. So does the council mayor have any questions at this time regarding this plan?
Set a question.
Yes, Councilman Vanchery, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Council President. First, thank you everyone for taking the time for this presentation. It was very, good to see there is something that could happen to this building. Mrs. Donovan, I know you talked about the funding and how I can tell you have had success. But my question is, any concerns, with some of these goals? I mean, is there anything that could throw a wrench in these plans if, because with everything changing in the last couple of years, is there any concerns on your end or even Mr. Vettery that could, hinder some of the timing potentially based on the funding?
I mean, I can't speak for John, but I mean, the only is based on funding. I'm not foreseeing that there's going to be an issue, knowing the potential that knowing what we've raised and the potential that we have to raise and the ability to control some of that funding being raised. So that definitely outside of grant opportunities. So yes, but I really don't see any issue. The biggest issue was we weren't able to actually apply for grants if we're not able to secure, as John had mentioned, whether it's a lease agreement, an LOI, which we had approached Mayor Damiano about as well. So it was really the initial of not being able to say that we have permission to move forward versus the opportunity to actually raise the funds. That was the biggest obstacle standing in our way. I don't mean standing in our way, but that was sort of the biggest obstacle. We really couldn't, apply any grants for this opportunity because we couldn't say that we could use it for this purpose.
Yeah, I think what she's referring to is what I mentioned about having legal standing to go out and file grants, which is, what brought us here tonight, to be able to ask permission to seek the grants from, at this point, Passaic County, and followed up by these other grants that we're working on right now with the state of New Jersey and tourism, as well as the foundation grants. And then to answer your question, Councilman Vanchery, from our perspective, I'm just thrilled that we don't have a huge lumber cost here. There's not much framing because lumber has gone through the roof, but even with the supply chain, like ordering, equipment and, new fixtures for the bathrooms, I think we have an adequate time here built in, even with the supply chain issues that are going on right now.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Council President, I have one more question.
Yes, Councilman Havelitz.
What are the deadlines for the grants to be applied for this year?
So the Passaic County deadline is March 18th.
That's right around the corner.
Yeah. The deadline for the LOI was January 18th, and we met that with at least 5 to 6 hours. Got that in. Maybe 4, Kelly. But this one is coming up on March 18th, needing a letter of authorization from the township and a signed lease agreement.
And I don't know if you need to know this, but our current grant for Impact Garden State is July of 2022. So that's the fruition date.
That's the impact grant, Pam?
Yes.
So, Mr. Veteran, I have one final question, and getting back to funding. If I do some numbers in my head quickly, basically, you have to fundraise about $250,000, $300,000, less the grants, money that you have in the bank, pledge monies. Is that about sort of?
That's about right. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation this evening. I'm sure we're going to hear from the public.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yes, you're welcome.
Thank you very much for having us, and thank you all for the opportunity.
We'll move on to council reports. Councilmember Havelitz.
Sure. Thank you, Council President. I just have a few reports from the library. Just wanted to let you know about some upcoming events. March 5th, the library will be celebrating Dr. Seuss's birthday with a story time and bingo at 11 a.m. Also, there's 2 sessions in March of adult coloring on March 11th and March 18th. That would be from 11 to 1 p.m. and Dr. Seuss's birthday would be at 11 a.m. Both you can register for on the website to the library. I'd also like to let you know that the Friends of the Library, which is a very big portion of providing additional funding for the library for events, is looking for members. They do have a meeting every 3rd Tuesday of the month. And this year they will be hosting a spring book drive as they have in the past. The dates for the book drive are April 1st from 10 to 5 p.m. and April 2nd from 10 to 3 p.m. You can drop off your donations of books up until March 28th, and they can be dropped off at the library during library hours. That's all I have for report.
Councilman Vanchery, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Council President. Just a few updates. I did want to mention, and we'll send out a communication via email, we'll have a flyer as well. On Friday, April 1st at 6 o'clock outside here at the Flagpole Town Hall, we will have the flag raising for Autism Awareness Month. This is something that we've done the last few years, so we're looking forward to having it again this year. So details will come out again. It'll be Friday, April 1st at 6 o'clock outside of Town Hall for the flag raising. Just a couple other things. I just want to mention that, we continue to work on the activities that are coming up in May for the Memorial Day Parade, and I'm actually looking to start getting together with some of the different departments in town to start planning things. I had a conversation last week with Deputy Chief Prawl as well to kind of talk about what we're going to plan for this year's parade and also the concert the night before. And things are moving along nicely. We have some bands, we have some vendors involved. So we're looking to have a nice weekend because I think everybody's been clamoring to have something nice happen in town with the last couple of years. So just more to come on that. The other thing I do want to mention too is just my thoughts are with State County Commissioner Terry Duffy on the passing of his son Terrence. I had a chance to pay my respects earlier before this meeting. So just want to let our county commissioner know that we're thinking of him here in Little Falls. That's it for me.
Councilmember Seaver.
Thank you, Council President. So first off, we have our Little Falls Farmers Market coming together, and we are still currently accepting applications to be a vendor. So if anybody is interested, they can reach out to Tyler Passaro at the Little Falls Recreation Department. And then just one other note, we all know what's going on in the world, and just want to recognize that many Little Falls residents are Ukrainian, as we've had some proclamations and a flag raising in the past 2 years in recognition of Holodomor, which is the Ukrainian genocide. And so with the way the world is going right now, I just want to recognize those Little Falls residents that have, including myself, that have relatives over in Ukraine, and just wishing everybody much peace and love, and that my thoughts and prayers are for everybody.
Councilmember Quaddi, floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. There are a lot of events coming up that we're working on. We have a tentative date for Water Fun Fest, the second one, which we expect will be longer than the last one this year, on July 23rd. As long as the lightning cooperates. And Councilwoman Havletts and I have been planning another 5 outdoor movie nights this year. We're looking forward to that and bringing together those titles and deciding what they are now. But it's going to be an active summer here in Little Falls. I can tell you that much. 2 other things about events that are going on. More recently, the Pinewood Derby. The Cub Scouts are running their Pinewood Derby this Saturday at 10 a.m. At St. John's Church on Van Pelt Place. I would encourage anybody who has ever been to a Pinewood Derby or never been to a Pinewood Derby, stop in, show them their support. The Cub Scouts have been a great organization for us in town when we need them to show up and present flags and things like that. They're really terrific. And so this is their big event of the year. And the boys will be making their cars, have been making their cars. They'll be racing them on Saturday. The event usually lasts for a couple of hours. So I would encourage you to join that if you can. And the Boy Scouts pasta dinner is from 4 to 8 p.m. on March 12th at the Civic Center. You can, if you don't know any Boy Scouts, reach out to me. I'll let you know how to get tickets. Tickets for that are $10 a piece. Once again, another organization that does a lot to get involved in community events, including the Memorial Day Parade, the annual disposal of retired flags every year with the American Legion. So if you can support the Boy Scouts, they could use your help as well. That's it for me. Thank you.
Mayor Damiano, would you like to fill us in on what you've been up to as mayor?
Yes, this morning I had an opportunity to start my Monday morning off right by reading to the little residents of Little Falls, all of our kindergarten, first and second graders, for the kickoff of Read Across America Week. And I was able to read a book to them. And one of the students that I got to read to was my daughter. And they thought it was funny to give me a book that also required me to sing in the middle. And the minute I walked in the door, the first comment I got was, "Dad, you're a really good reader, but you're a really terrible singer." So that was exciting to start off my Monday morning. I also know our Deputy Chief Prawl got an opportunity to read to our School 3 residents this morning. And I know he enjoyed it. He had on a nice bedazzled cat in the hat, and it was definitely I'm sure an exciting morning for him as well.
Thank you, Mayor. I have one item on the senior advisory. March 16th is our Irish Bash. We have from 12 to 2. We have Luke O'Malley coming to sing and entertain the group. So those that want to attend, please reach out to Janet Cohen and give her a shout, or reach out to the rec center and tell them that you'd like to attend. Counselor Wenzel, do you have anything for us this evening?
Hello, Council President. No, I don't have anything to report at this time.
Great. Deputy Chief Parler, would you like to address the governing body?
Sometimes it doesn't work right. Is that good?
Yes.
I just have a couple brief comments. March 10th, we've been invited, as everybody's may not be aware, but some people are aware, we are an accredited law enforcement agency. Myself and the department's accreditation manager, Lieutenant Pressing, will be heading down for our accreditation commission review on Thursday, March 10th, to go over our accreditation with those folks. As the mayor pointed out this morning, I had the privilege of reading to the school 3 children. If you follow us on social media, on Facebook, you'll see about that. Some of the initiatives that I spoke about at the reorganization meeting are still moving forward. Our social media campaign, we're still planning for that. Working on some figures for the special police officer program to Mr. Kuchia. I did have a discussion with the mayor. The department is looking to identify a LGBTQ plus liaison for the police department. So that would be coming up shortly. I hope to have more information for the council, hopefully at the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Chief, for joining us this evening and for that information. Have a motion to open to the public hearing on the township application of Passaic County Open Space and Farmland Preservation Trust Fund for improvements to Wilmore Road Park.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Quaddy, second by Councilman Vanchery. All those in favor of opening to public, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed to this motion signify by saying nay. Seeing no one come forth, can I have a yes, absolutely. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Fernandez. No, sir. This is on the Preservation Trust Fund for Wilmore Road. That's okay. Not a problem. Not at all. Have a motion to close the public?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Kawadi.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Hablitz. All those in favor of closing public signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed to this motion signify by saying nay. Have a motion to open the meeting to the public for agenda items only.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Moved by Councilmember Vanchery, second by Councilmember Hablitz. All those in favor of opening the public for agenda items only, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed to that motion signify by saying nay. The motion carries. Mrs. DiPiero, please read the statement.
Anyone wishing to address the Township Council may do so through the council president. Please give your name and address for the record. Comments are to be limited to 3 minutes. However, if appropriate, you may be granted additional time in the sole discretion of the council president. Members of the public who have joined the meeting virtually and desire to provide comment shall raise their virtual hand in the Zoom application. The meeting moderator will cue the members of the public that wish to provide comment, and the council president will recognize them in order. Members of the public who have joined the meeting by calling in must press *6 to mute and unmute themselves, *9 to raise their hand. Members of the public who have joined the meeting via the Zoom application must click the reaction icon, then raise hand icon. Please give your name and address for the record. Once the process is completed, we will return to the regular order of business.
Thank you. The floor is now open.
Thank you. Luis Fernandez, 54 Harrison Street.
Good evening.
How are you?
Yeah.
Let me just, and I'm going to ask questions, and if they look or if they sound stupid, it's just that I'm trying to educate myself and find out some details about, for example, the Historical Society. They made a nice presentation. They really did. Unfortunately, they should have been here. Because there's one thing about making a presentation over the internet, when the public is 70, 80 feet away, you can't see things. You can't see numbers. You can't see the the plan, you can see basically nothing. We have to trust them from what they are saying. But it will be nice if they have a tripod, and at least the public can interact with them. And we could have asked questions as well. And one of the questions, and like I said, if it sounds stupid,
Mr. Fernandez, there's no stupid question.
Okay.
here, So please feel free.
who funds? Is it publicly funded? Is the taxpayers, do the taxpayers fund the Historical Society?
When you say fund, Mayor, they're not, there's no paid
In
salaries.
other
on
words,
the
what I'm,
historical-
in other words, what I'm
Is-
not,
Is there a budget? There's no monies that come from, no.
There's a very small annual stipend that is provided to the Historical Society.
I think it's a couple $1,000.
yeah, all right, so basically they are financially, I'm talking about, they are self-sustained. They raise whatever money they need for the projects that they do need. Correct?
Correct, yeah. This, Mr. Fernandez is a pretty big, large project, but in years past, Mr. Vedder, are you still with us?
I am, Council President.
Okay, so there's a question on the table. Mr. Fernandez wants to know your monies that you, and on the Historical Society, they come from your fundraising, you get a stipend from the town, where they come from?
So I think the stipend goes to the Historic Preservation Commission, not to the society. So the society is a private 501c3 nonprofit corporation. We were founded in 1968, and we have received, donations over the last 54 years. We've had funds, and we do not get funds from the township. We are very fortunate that we have space at the Civic Center that we do not pay for, and that is within a township-owned building. But our funding all comes from our own grant writing that we've done over the past for programs and for things such as 35 Stevens, as well as private donations.
Thank
Council
you.
President, that's correct. There is no line item for the Historical
Great.
Society.
So the money goes to the preservation.
All right, that's,
Well, let's just clear this up a moment.
yeah,
So the money goes to the preservation, which the Historical Society oversees, correct?
No,
There is some money.
I believe if there is a
There's no
line-
monies?
If there's a line item, it may, and I sit on the Preservation Commission, which is an appointment of the mayor, but I don't think there's any money. I think it would just, if there's a line item, it would just be in kind, like just for us using the space, but we do not receive any money from the township.
Okay, Mr. Fernandez.
all right. In other words, it's not costing the Historical Society is not costing me as a taxpayer anymore.
No, sir.
That's what I was getting at.
We do accept donations though, Mr. Fernandez.
All right, Mr. Veddery, we run a very tight council meeting, as you know, so please.
If I may,
Please
Council
refrain from
President.
jumping in here.
I'm glad
Sorry.
you brought that up, Mr. Fernandez, because that's a point that everyone up here was abundantly clear on. But if you weren't, I'm glad that that is now very clear. So thank you.
All right,
For that
no
question.
problem.
Go ahead.
And I'm asking questions as a taxpayer.
That's
as a
fine.
resident. Basically, and from what I've read and I heard, basically roughly $1 million will take, that's what will take to have the building up and running, to have the roasting place up and running and so forth. All right, so once it's running, who funds these places to run efficiently? In other words, there was something about the training for the people with disabilities. Is it going to be at the taxpayers' expense? Who subsidizes that part? Who subsidizes also the roasting place? The taxpayers?
No, Mr. Fernandez, there's no taxpayers' monies at this time
I
being
just wanna
allocated
make
to this
this clear.
project. The monies that Ethan and the Bean would make, is going to be hopefully self-sustaining to their operation, but there's no taxpayer monies
So
at this time being discussed. Now, I can't tell you tomorrow morning after I have individual dialogues with council members and the mayor, but at this time, there's no monies of taxpayers being presented for this project.
well, that's a big plus. And I like it that way because I like it. I like the fact that, Mr. Mayor, you went over the budget earlier today. And I like the fact that our taxes are going to be raised very little, contrary to what they would have been if the budget the referendum had been approved. It would have been a big increase. Also, like I said, it was a very nice presentation. I only saw some of the pictures because you can see a little bit of the pictures. And I think it was the first picture. It was a picture of, if you recall, the celebration. It was like a celebration in the parking lot and a marching band. I think they were waiting for President Trump to arrive. But anyway, that's very nice. It's nice to see that the old building is going to have some life after all, and I'm glad basically that it's not costing the taxpayers any money. And my second question, if I may interrupt, and I couldn't see it, is to the mayor. You said the 2021 assessed value for the township, it was 0.894. Can you tell me what the 2022? I think it was 0.9 something.
910.
910?
Yep.
And that's on a home assessed. That's
$310,000.
okay. All right. Thank you.
That's the tax rate regardless of
That is correct. But you said the estimate,
average assessed value is
Right.
$310,000.
the estimate of $23, it will be on a home assessed at
Correct. And that's, just to be very clear, not what your home may sell for today.
no.
What your home is assessed at based upon the tax records in the municipality.
Correct. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. The floor is still open. Mr. Kusia, is there anyone? Mrs. Cataldo. Mrs. Cataldo, can you hear us?
I can, thank you.
Okay, the floor is your open. Name and address, please.
Dorothy Cataldo, 534 Main Street.
Thank you.
I just wanted to make a statement. This building has stood empty as long as I've been here, and I think it's a fantastic addition to the town. Little Falls is growing leaps and bounds from all aspects, and so proud of their history. We see it evident throughout with all the pictures between Maggie's, between the Civic Center, even Cloverleaf has stuff about Little Falls history on their walls. So having some place like this, I think would be a fantastic addition. Not only that, but the aspect of the arts. The kids are right across the street. I think it would be amazing. And even young adults, all these kids, going out for different things in college, they can come over and take part in, and regular exhibits, I think would be fantastic. So I just want to say great job, and I hope it actually happens. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to approach the podium? Is there anyone else that would like to? Yes, sir.
Yeah, Don Handel, 92nd Avenue. I just, I belong to the Cedar Grove Historic Society and the Little Falls Historic Society. I had no idea that was even be presented tonight. I thought it was fantastic, and I think it's something that would really benefit the town. It was phenomenal, and I want to, again, just thank the group that put that together, because that was a lot of effort put into that. And I do remember hearing something about this maybe last fall, and I'm just really glad that I was here to see that, because I think it would be a great addition to the town.
Thank you. So let's come forward. Can I have a motion to close the public?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Vanchery.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Havelitz. All those in favor of closing the public signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed to that motion signify by saying nay. The motion carries. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Before Councilmember Havelitz, would you like to talk about A on the consent agenda? No, I'm sorry, B.
B.
I apologize.
Sure. So with regards to Resolution B, Resolution B is a resolution for the township to request funding from the Passaic County Open Space Trust Fund for improvements to Wilmore Road Park, Wilmore Park, or Tank Park, as some of us know it. This is for playground equipment. As we all know, the playground is in need of some updating and repair. It's been many years. The last time it was updated was probably over 20 years ago. And some of the playground equipment was donated by Saturn, which we know is no longer even in business. So we are applying for a grant We applied for one last year that was approved, and we're now applying for a second grant for some of the playground equipment needs to offset the cost of the project. Residents did recently receive a letter stating that we're applying for the grant. This is just a letter to inform the public of the residents that live closest to the park.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Quadri, can you please inform the public what Resolution C is about?
Absolutely, Council President. So we are applying for a CDBG grant, which is a community development block grant from the county, from Passaic County. Streets in town need updating regularly. And so this is different than the streetscape, which comes from the state DOT. This is different from our own township street repaving program. This is a grant that will take care of mostly aesthetics on Cherry Street, but maybe some minor drainage issues, similar to what was done on Coney and Micklejohn in the past. And so we'll be applying for a grant to the county to make that happen.
Thank you, Councilmember Quadri. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Vanchery,
Second?
second by Councilmember Quadri. This is a roll call. Ms. DePiero, please call the roll.
Councilmember Havlet?
Yes.
Councilmember Kwati?
Yes.
Councilmember Seaver?
Yes.
Councilmember Vanchery?
Yes.
Council President Scoba.
Yes. Can I have a motion to open to public for general matters?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Vanchery,
Second?
second by Councilmember Quadri. This is a voice vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed to this motion, do so by signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Mrs. DePiero?
Anyone wishing to address the Township Council may do so through the Council President. Please give your name and address for the record. Comments are to be limited to 3 minutes. However, if appropriate, you may be granted additional time in the sole discretion of the Council President. Members of the public who have joined the meeting virtually and desire to provide comment shall raise their virtual hand. In the Zoom application, the meeting moderator will cue the members of the public that wish to provide comment, and the Council President will recognize them in order. Members of the public who have joined the meeting by calling in must press *6 to mute and unmute themselves and *9 to raise their hand. Members of the public who have joined the meeting via the Zoom application must click the reactions icon, then the raise hand icon. Please give your name and address for the record. Once the process is complete, we will return to the regular order of business.
Thank you. The floor is now open for general matters.
Again, Luis Fernandez, Harrison Street. I have two questions and they're both regarding traffic. Number one, Mr. Mayor, do you know the scheduled finish date for the nightmare that is the intersection of 3 and 46? It's almost impossible to get through closing the lane with all the closures and all the, it's a nightmare.
So you raise a point that Deputy Chief Pearl and I have discussed for a lot of time now, as of recently. It's been an issue for a number of years. To answer the question you have, DOT has advised that their drop dead finish date is December 31st, 2024.
Holy canoe.
Which is essentially 3 years. Now, they anticipate finishing prior to that. But the reason they provide that date is because that's the date that many of their DEP permits expire, cannot be renewed and extended, et cetera, et cetera. So they say they need to be done by that date. To their credit, it does seem that each time I go by or week by week, you can see some changes that are being made. Unfortunately, it's not fast enough that I am very pleased. I believe accidents in that area and that stretch of the highway are up 1,800%. An 80% increase just in the construction area over the year prior. And it has a lot to do with there being absolutely no acceleration or deceleration lanes. Getting on the highway there, especially if you're not very comfortable behind a wheel and don't have a vehicle that accelerates very quickly, you're almost taking your lives in your hands each time you hit the gas to get on the highway. It is an absolute nightmare, especially when traffic is flowing. Fortunately, there is some traffic in the area that kind of allows people to more slowly make their way out. Unfortunately, there's tons of traffic in the area.
Yes.
So it's terrible. I do hope that once this project is concluded, that we will see some relief right here on Main Street ourselves, because people will stay on the highway. The project does call for there to be several more lanes at the juncture where 46 and 3 split. So hopefully it will make all of our lives easier in the future.
Okay, we hope so, because I can't wait for this nightmare to be over, to be honest with you. The second question is, and I had the, I won't say the pleasure, but I was there this morning when a huge truck trailer tried to exit Jackson Park. And it was almost impossible. First, well, you have to understand, this is I don't know how many, 18-wheel trailer, it was huge. First, he tried to exit through Jackson. He couldn't. Then he backed down. He tried to exit through Ryle. He couldn't. So he had to go all the way to, what is it, Willow? All the way at, no, Willow, all the way at the end. By the dead end.
Yeah, it's by Willow. Yeah, you're
Willow?
right.
Madison.
No, he's,
Madison.
no, it's Morris. No,
Madison.
Madison.
Okay.
So he had to, and it was a nightmare. In the meantime, there's people behind the truck that they have to go places, and everybody's getting annoyed naturally. Any progress on these thing that we have going against the owner of the building? And because it's going to be almost 2 years.
Sure. So I do have some good news on that front.
Oh, great.
There was a pre-planning meeting that I participated in with the property owner, just to get an idea of what it is that they are looking to ultimately accomplish with the entirety of that site. The entirety of that site now also includes what was the old sign crafters building on Sindel Ave. It backs up to the 75 Harrison Street property. The property owner intends and has begun taking action to pave and provide the driveway all the way through, so that access to 75 Harrison in the future will actually be through Sindel Ave, which is now a semi-truck friendly route, considering there's a ton of commercial and industrial, including our DPW at the bottom of Sindel. Trucks can easily make that route without problem. And there's turning radius to get in and out of that area with far less residential in the area. So yes, there is some progress being made. They just were able to close recently on the building on Sindel. They are in the process of, they don't even have full permits yet for the building. They need to put in sprinkler systems, things like that still. But the property owner is still taking those steps that he promised to accomplish it. He still has not actually closed on 75 Harrison Street because of ongoing litigation that not he is involved in, but the current owner with other prior potential purchasers and things of the sort. But the property owner of current, or I'm sorry, the current occupant of 75 Harrison is keeping true to his word that he is looking to eventually not have any 18-wheelers coming through the Jackson Harrison
Right.
area.
And I'm asking this question because, like I said, it was a nightmare. It took about 10 minutes for the trailer to get out. And also between jumping from one place to another. And also because there was, I was just outside looking at and there was another homeowner in the area, and we started to talk. And this other homeowner is aware that of the traffic changes, that the parking changes that hopefully they'll take place. Well, maybe parking on both sides of the street on Harrison should be allowed to entice these people not to travel through, because if we make parking space, if we hold on the ordinance 1430 and we allow parking on both sides of Harrison Street, they can't get through. And believe me, the residents,
Mr. Bennett, you raise a great point. The problem is a fire truck and an ambulance also can't get through. And the way that we calculate whether parking is permitted on one side, both sides, or no sides is based upon the width of the roadway. And based upon the width of the roadway, we want to ensure that turning radiuses for fire trucks, ambulances and other emergency apparatus are able to traverse those streets. And while you raise a good point that it would stop a truck from being able to make its way down, unfortunately, if a ladder were needed to get to the top of your roof in the event of a fire, that wouldn't be able to get there either. So we do have to balance the inconvenience of having these trucks occasionally on your
Okay,
street
they
currently
do it on an everyday basis now.
with the, again, to balance that with the safety of the residents in the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fernandez. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward? Have a motion to close the public comment?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Vanchery, second by Councilmember Havelitz. All those in favor of closing the public comment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed to that motion signify by saying nay. The motion carries. Before we adjourn, I want to thank Mr. Kusia and Mrs. DiPiero for helping assist putting this meeting on. There's a lot that goes on before a meeting like this occurs, so thank you for your help. Have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Seaver, second by Councilmember Havelitz. All those in favor of adjourning this meeting, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please note by saying nay. The motion does carry, and this meeting is now closed.